I played college basketball in Texas, and I realized that what happens on the court usually happens off the court. To be a competitive athlete, you have to be talent and you have to commit and invest a lot of time. Not all the kids want that. Not all the kids want to be a professional athlete. Some of them just like to play soccer or football or basketball. It doesn't matter. And when they do it, they enjoy it. So think about it. They stayed at home for almost 2 years. They didn't go to school. Their parents most of the time had to teach them instead of parents because most of the students cannot really study online on Zoom. They didn't see their friends for almost 2 years, and it affected their communication skills. First of all, I think that parents have to be a good role model. So don't expect your kids to work out or to play sports if you don't do it. Don't expect your kids to read books if you don't do it. Don't expect your kids to see friends and to hang out with friends if you don't do it. So first of all, I think it's really important to be the role model because it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do. Kids, they want to feel needed. They want to feel like they're important.
Welcome to tonight's episode of The Health King's Court. I'm your host, Zach the Health King. Anything that you hear in this podcast is not intended to be taken as medical advice. The thoughts and opinions you hear shared are just that, thoughts and opinions. And any action that you take based on what you hear is done at your own risk. And with that said, enjoy the show. Welcome everybody to today's episode of The Health King's Court, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Health. I'm your host, Zach the Health King. Today we have a very interesting guest calling in from Israel. He is the CEO of Jumping Forward, a program that addresses the need for a holistic approach to education. He combines the mental learning with physicality and physical learning. He seeks to create an environment that promotes empathy, self-awareness, and inclusiveness, leaving a lasting impression on students' lives. His students learn how to describe and express their emotions healthily, which allows them to build effective communication skills and have healthy, meaningful relationships. And it's a pleasure to welcome Tomer Kamil. Tomer, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Me too, because what you do is very important work. If we don't take care of the children, well, how can society move forward in a healthy way, right? The children of today are the adults of tomorrow. And so to begin, I would like to know what got you interested in creating an educational program for children to be healthy.
So I was a college basketball player 15 years ago. I played college basketball in Texas, and I realized that what happens on the court usually happens off the court. And I gained so many skills, and I learned so much from just the game, just to be a basketball player. And I use these tools on a daily basis. If we're talking about communication skills, if you're talking about anger management, we're talking about achieving goals and setting goals, etc. And I was thinking that not only competitive athletes should earn from this, because we have a lot of kids that like to play sport, but they are not professional and they don't want to play competitive. They just like to play sport. So why would they miss this opportunity? And I decided to develop this program and give this opportunity to learn so much, to learn those skills from just regular kids. They like to do sport.
Awesome. So, and that's something that is very common, right? When a child doesn't just attend school, but plays sports specifically, there are certain lessons that they learn that you can't normally learn otherwise, because a classroom setting traditionally is very individualized. It's very the student and then the student and the teacher, and there's a bit of group work, but writing things down and reading and doing little projects, that's boring, right? Sports, it's fun. So when you get kids interacting with each other and collaborating and working on a team or even having healthy competition amongst each other, that's kind of like more of a real life approach because the real world is like that. And we face different competitions and different collaborative efforts in the real world as well. So I certainly think that it's common for people to say, oh, yes, I learned this because I played football. I learned this because I played basketball, whatever. But not every student wants to dive into full competition sports. And that's where your program comes into play because it's kind of like an in between where it's okay, it's for everybody, all the children, not just the ones who want to take this super seriously, but they could still get the lessons from the sports as well. Is that correct?
Exactly, exactly. Because to be a competitive athlete, you have to be talent, and you have to commit and invest a lot of time. Not all the kids want that. Not all the kids want to be a professional athlete. Some of them just they like to play soccer or football or basketball. It doesn't matter. And when they do it, they enjoy it. So first of all, they have good connection usually with the therapist because both of them like sport. And secondly, because they have a good connection and they trust the therapist, so the walls are surrounded because a lot of kids that have hard time, they face a lot of challenges. So so they are focused on, they are focused on, or focus on, they want to, they are not, how they said, they are not, they need someone that they know that they trust them and something that provide them with confidence. And if they go to school and it's hard for them to listen to the teacher and they don't get good grades on the test, for example. So so the teachers are unsatisfied. So they need this person, this character that believes in them and they give them the confidence. And when they find this person, they share with them all the challenges and they have usually they have good connection with this character.
That's wonderful that you're able to provide that arena because that's correct. Not every child is ready to open up and share what's going on with them to just anybody. And that's not just children, that's anybody. Even an adult isn't just going to go and accept help or be able to receive help and guidance from anyone. It especially children who are more sensitive, who maybe don't know how to communicate things without the proper guidance. It's really essential that we set the stage for them to feel comfortable to work through whatever they are troubled with. And so you use the term sports therapy. Would you like to describe what that means to you, or how would you define sports therapy? Because that's what you consider part of your program as, right?
Yes, yes. So you have some kids that like music, you have some kids that like art, and I focus on kids that like sport. It doesn't matter. The sport it's only the tool that to get connected to the kids, and when they trust you and they feel like they have common bands, ways that both of them, the therapist and the kid, both of them like sport, so they usually do it. They will trust the therapist and then they have a good connection. So so it's exactly, I just chose sport because I like it and I enjoy it, and I saw and I realized how many tools it provided me with, and this is why I decided to focus on sport. But usually we can do it with art, or with some kids like animals. It's the same thing.
Very interesting. So it is therapy. I like that you made the connection because most people have heard of art therapy or music therapy or
Yeah.
a therapy animal, but I'm not sure if a lot of people have made the connection of, hey, we can get through to certain people in a therapeutic manner by using sports as the in. So that's really cool. And then another one of your core tenets that you talk about is social emotional learning. Would you like to describe
Yeah.
what that means and how you incorporate that?
Yes, so I developed a program, Jumping Forward, and we offer it to schools all over the world. So schools receive budget for SEL, social and emotional learning, because the schools realize and the government realize that a lot of kids face challenges with the social skills, with emotional skills, with and that's why they need those programs to assist them. It's easier to deliver the message and guide students when they have good connection with the therapist and when they enjoy the process. Because if a student comes to math class and he doesn't understand what's going on, so why would he trust the teacher? Why would he talk to him? And usually, he has like 30, 40 classmates, and we work in small groups. So they don't usually usually those students don't have the chance to have good connection with the teacher or therapist, doesn't matter, that can really see them and that really has the time to ask them how they feel and what they struggle with.
And so, why do you think all these children have troubles socially? Or why do you think so many children in today's world have emotional issues that they need all this help with? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, so it's a good question. First of all, I think because of the coronavirus, a lot of kids you think about it. They stayed at home for almost 2 years. They didn't go to school. Their parents most of the time had to teach them instead of parents, because most of the students cannot really study online on Zoom or Google Meetup. They didn't see their friends for almost 2 years, and it affected their communication skills. Um, when I was a kid, I went to play basketball. We spent a lot of time outside. Now it doesn't happen anymore. Most of the kids, when they finish school, they go home and they communicate online. They can play Fortnite or whatever, but the communication will be online. So when they come to school and after that they have to face their kids, their classmates, or they have to face with to communicate with their teachers, so they're not used to it.
Yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big problem, and it's a difficult one to solve because as we get more and more into the modern age, we're getting more and more technologically integrated. And I don't see it reversing anytime soon. I don't know
Mm.
how we solve this issue of, hey, we as humans are intended to be social. We are designed to socialize and talk to other people face to face, where you can look people in their eyes, you can feel people's presence, you can observe body language and figure out how to interact with the people around you. And we get less and less exposure to it. But is this something that has to happen? Because even though we have video games now, we have cell phones, we have computers, it's not like basketball hoops don't exist anymore. It's not like football or soccer, goals don't exist anymore. Those avenues can still be experienced by children, but how come they are not being experienced as much? How come those kids aren't going out and having these experiences aside from the lockdowns? Of course, the lockdowns were a whole craziness
Yeah.
that messed
Yes, yes.
everything up. But in general, what do you think is the reason behind children not having those ambitions anymore?
When you were in elementary school or even middle school, what did you do after school? You finished school around 2. What did you do after that? How did you spend your
See,
time?
I was in an interesting demographic. I'm 28 years old. So when I was growing up, it was kind of that in between phase where I very often would get on my bicycle and ride around town with my friends or ride to the
Exactly.
mall or play basketball. We spray painted the street with we call it four square or box ball court, and we'd have the whole town there. But I would also have my PlayStation and I could do that too. So when I was growing up, it was that interesting kind of in between where I got to experience both things. So that's what I
Exactly, but you would play like 1 hour, 2 hours a day, not more than that. Today, kids they don't go out with the basketballs, they don't do the graffiti anymore, they don't play basketball outside. Like maybe they can go to a practice and come back home, but they spend most of the time at home. Most of the time they spend it on screen. Doesn't matter on PlayStation or cell phone. Um, and it affected their communication skills. They affected their ability to make friends, the ability to face challenges. I see a lot of kids that get frustrated easily, that face challenges with manage their anger because they get angry easily and they don't know what to do with those feelings. So I believe this is one of the reasons.
What do you think is the role that the parents are playing in the children having these experiences? Because children ideally are taught by their parents how to be social. But when
Yes.
parents themselves don't have very good social skills, no matter what age they are, then how can they even teach the good social skills to their child? Is it the responsibility of the school to have to make up for this? Is it even possible for a school program to really get everything into that child's head when the parents might not themselves be modeling good behavior?
It's a great question. So it has to be 360, the school and the family and the kid and the teacher, they have to work together. Otherwise, nothing will happen. So first of all, I think that parents have to be a role model. So don't expect your kids to work out or to play sports if you don't do it. Don't expect your kids to read books if you don't do it. Don't expect your kids to be to see friends and to hang out with friends if you don't do it. So first of all, I think it's really important to be the role model because it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do. And this is what the parents, this is how the kids learn. And I think that the parents are the role model of their kids, and what happens usually what happens in the family reflects to how the kids behave after that.
Yeah, and that's such an essential and obvious part of the equation that I think is so forgotten by most people somehow. One of the things that bothers me is hearing people complain about their children, especially when their children are young. When they're older and then, they have their own sovereignty and can make decisions more independently, okay. But even so, it's a parent's responsibility to shape a child in a healthy way. And so many
Mm-hmm.
parents out there, they completely give up or they don't care or they don't think about what their actions are having as an impact on their children. And they just observe the negative behavior in a child if they're disrespectful or they're screaming or they're not super well performing in school, and they'll blame the child or they'll kind of externalize and think something else is the problem and not ever think, oh wait, maybe I did this. That's just crazy to me. It's so crazy to me
Yeah.
how responsibility has been kind of pushed aside for a lot of parents. And so thank you for bringing that to the forefront because it's not just what you say, it's what you do. Exactly like you said. I
Exactly.
think there's a lot of hypocritical behavior in the world as a whole today where people have this, I'm going to tell you what to do, but I'm gonna do something else because what I'm telling you to do might be a challenge. It might be challenging or it's difficult to learn or it's difficult to do this, but I know it should be done, but I'm lazy, so no, you should go do it, but I'm not gonna do it. And then they get resentment towards their children when the children fail, not realizing that they set themselves or they set them up to fail. It's a
Yeah.
very strange thing that we have going on between children and parents, and there's like a divide in between, isn't there?
Yes, for example, a good example. So don't if you drive with your kid in the car, you drive somewhere with them. So if you curse, if someone cut you off, so you know, so the kid the kid listening is listening, and probably when he comes to school, they will curse too if something happens. So yeah. And another thing is, I think that the parents work really hard and a lot of hours, and when they finish their day, they come home and they're exhausted. And the easiest thing, is just to give up because it's challenging. It's challenging after you had a long day at your work to come and to educate your kid, and. Most of the parents come, nervous and exhausted, as I said earlier. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because it is easy to say, "Hey, parent, you are failing, and so you suck." But we can also have to recognize that the world is hard, and it's getting harder as well. And the way that society is set up, it does make it very difficult because, like you said, a lot of parents have to work long, long hours. And now society has been led in such a way where it's not just one parent working long, long hours while the other parent is able to dedicate herself to the children. Now, in most circumstances, both parents are working long, long hours. And that's kind of a new experiment, is it? That hasn't
Yeah,
been done traditionally throughout time. And I think a lot of what we're seeing in problems in the generations is a result of it being set up so that both parents are working those long, long hours. And children are kind of, for one part, raising themselves, for another part, being raised by the internet, and for the third part, just being raised by the school. And the role of a parent is kind of being diminished and lessened over time. And
yeah,
that's why we see a lot of wonderful programs coming into the schools by people like yourself to try and kind of pick up the slack, but that slack is being put on the is coming from the parents, but it's not necessarily because they're awful. It's just they might be doing the best they can. It's a weird scenario we find ourselves in the world. And again, it's one of those
yeah,
things. I don't know if there's a perfect solution for everybody because there's been a long time and a lot of different things happening in society that have brought us to be where we are today.
yeah, yeah.
And so your program, how does it work? Do you have schools yourself that you host, or do schools hire you to come on and put this program on? Do you teach people how to implement this program and then they carry it on themselves in the school? How does it work?
So I teach my therapist, and then they come to the school that hire us, and we run the program for 15 sessions. The way it works that usually the teachers and the SEL coordinator they pick the relevant kids that need some help, kids that need more confidence, kids that face a challenge. Kids that they don't know how to make friends, kids that get frustrated easily, kids that have lack of communication skills and social skills. So we build usually a group of 10 members, 10 students, and then we start working with them. So in the beginning, we do the introduction, and we usually work in a group of two, and then in a group of three, and then we work in two groups of five students on each team, and we work together on cooperation. We can see later some drills that we do. For example, the thing is that we have the opportunity when something happens to stop and to talk about it and to analyze it. Um, you want to see, if you want, we can go through an example. I sent you the link earlier.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to take a look. Is that the video you sent me before?
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
Cool. And so I'll play that video. And that's really cool, though. I just want to mention that you kind of take baby steps. You take a child, and instead of throwing them into a giant group and trying to have it work together healthily, that's a lot to handle. So you
Yes,
start a student off with one other student, and you say, okay, let's learn how to be healthy in communication with one other person. And then let's make it a little bigger of a group, and let's learn how to be healthy in a slightly bigger group. Is that right?
exactly. This is the idea. Exactly.
That's awesome. All right, so I'll share the screen and I'll play that video that you sent me so people can take a look um,
Perfect.
at what you're talking about and how the program works. And for anyone that is just catching the audio, well, you should have watched the video. Sorry. All right. So you can see that now, right?
Yes. So you can. So here we see two students. One is blindfolded, and then the other student has to guide the student how to go to all the obstacles without reaching them. And after that, we switch roles, and then we analyze it. How did you feel when you were blindfolded? How was the communication? How we can do it next time better? And which position did you feel more comfortable? And this is a lovely drill that we do in the beginning, because you see we work in a group of two, um, and a lot of challenges. A lot of challenges reflect usually, because they have to pick first who is the leader and who is blindfolded. Usually they can blame each other that they didn't communicate well, they didn't explain me well. If they don't succeed, then they have to do it again. So this is a fun game, and then we have the opportunity after we finish it to talk about it and analyze it. And I believe in the idea behind it. It's easier to deliver the message and guide the students when they have fun, because you see, they have a lot of fun here. Uh,
Yeah, it does look like fun.
yeah,
It does look like fun. That's
yeah,
pretty cool. And so it's interesting that you're doing these kind of special exercises. It's not just traditional sports like you would think, okay, basketball, okay, football.
We just like to ask.
It's also kind of, different physical activities that can encourage team building. And that's pretty cool. I think a lot of adults can probably benefit from trying to do
definitely.
those programs. But it does look like
I just see this video. I just see this video, and I feel like I want to try
I
it.
know. And that's pretty cool. You could kind of see the gears turning in the children's head as you're watching the video. You saw the one girl, okay, she turned around so she can relate to the other girl and get her lefts and the right straight. And they were all smiling. And one of them did kind of hit the pin and knocked it down. But the other child, she wasn't even on that girl's team, she went and put the pin back up. And so they're not even just collaborating with their team. Because they're having fun, they just kind of naturally fall into, ooh, let me help everyone, because everyone's kind of in this activity together. That's pretty cool. And
It's really good that they notice this, and then this is exactly our work, because when something like this happens, we stop everything and we give this compliment to this student. It's good that you notice that she faces some challenges, and you assisted her, even though you are not on the same team together. Because usually, when you're in a regular class, the teacher doesn't have time for this, and he doesn't have time to notice even this, because the teacher has to deal with 40 students. But here we work in small groups. It's a small, it's private, and they have good connection. So we have the time to stop and to talk about it. And I think it means a lot. It means a lot to those students that they get this compliment, because most of the time, especially the students that come to this program. So as you said earlier, the teacher are unsatisfied and they don't do well probably usually. So and they get hard time. So they really use this. They really need this character, this therapist that believe in them and see those small things. That means a lot of them.
yeah, and that's a very good point, because a lot of children, especially in a school setting, they only get attention, or they only get communication with their teacher when something's wrong, right? They only get yelled at when they're acting out or when something's bad or not good. And when a child is being good, they kind of just get ignored because, okay, everything's fine, there's no attention needed for the classroom to kind of continue on because it's not a disruption. And that I think is very unfortunate for those children that are doing good things because then if they don't kind of feel rewarded, then how is that behavior reinforced? And I think a lot of kind of good kids stop caring after a while if what's the point? I'm not getting recognized for it anyway. And that's a really cool thing that of course in a public education setting with a lot of students, there's not really always the time for one teacher to recognize all the good stuff. And these smaller group
Mhm.
settings, they are a lot more conducive to it. And so that's pretty cool. And something I noted while watching the video is I didn't see any adults even in the activity at all. So, what is the role of the adult when these children are taking part in the activities? Are they giving guidance at all themselves, or are they just completely hands off and just kind of jumping in when needed and allowing the children to collaborate and naturally? How does that work?
So good question. It really depends. So we first explain what we are going to do and why, what is the reason behind it. And then the job of the therapist to know if there is a reason why to stop and to explain, to analyze, or maybe you can go on and stop and talk about it later. So, for example, a lot of time we see that kids get frustrated, and it's not the good time to talk to them because they're frustrated and they're angry. So sometimes we need to take the time to tell them to go to take a deep breath and to teach them how to face with this. When they face this challenge, and then after that we stop and then we can talk. So this is exactly the job to therapist, the therapist to know when to stop and when to talk about it, and when to give the compliment. Exactly like you said earlier, that you saw that she assisted her classmate even she didn't have to. So this is a good time to stop and to tell it to all the other members that this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for to see how you assist each other, how you kind with each other, how you care. And this is the most important thing to know that I expect to see. I don't care if they can go to all the obstacles without touching them, or they do. I do care to see that they communicate, that they get along together.
Yeah. And what is the role that this program has with parents? Do you invite parents to kind of watch what's happening or to learn some of the things that your counselors are learning? Is there any education for the parents of the children that are taking part in these programs?
Yeah, so each month we write a report about how each kid progress, and what happened and what do we see we need to focus on. And after that, they deliver it to the teacher and to the parents. Um, and after that, this is the parents' work to keep doing the same job.
And how do you find is the reception for a lot of the parents in your program? Do the parents kind of keep doing the same job and keep it up? Or, are the parents, how are the parents performing when they see the change
So
in?
so it depends. It depends. Some parents, are curious to know what happened and how their son or daughter do, and what they can do at home. And some parents, as we talked earlier, are too tired, exhausted, and they don't really care. But even if we don't cooperate with the parents, I think that the fact that they have this character that they trust, they wait. Usually, they really wait for those sessions, because it's something special, it's something important to them, and they wait for this. So it means a lot. It means a lot. Even the parents don't cooperate with us. Still means a lot to the kids. They wait for those sessions.
Yeah. And that's a very good point because children remember everything. People think that children don't remember things. And that's such a disservice to the children and to everybody because even though a child might not consciously remember every experience they have, everything that they feel and go through, it does stay with them at a subconscious level. And so I imagine that there's children that grow up having gone through a program like yours and still think back to some of the positive experiences they have and still kind of maybe think back to the exercises that they went through and the lessons that they learned through it. And so you might not even know, as someone putting on the program, what impact you're having on these children for, years and years to come. It's very interesting of a
Yeah, yeah.
scenario that you're in. But what about when children might not be so receptive? So you said if there's, an issue that comes up and a child gets frustrated and they're very emotionally charged in a moment, that you kind of wait till later to dive into it. Have you ever experienced a child that over a long term just still was just having a hard time being open to receiving guidance, and they were just always upset and always kind of shutting down? And how do you deal with kind of someone that's very deeply disturbed emotionally like that?
I try to give the student more attention and more roles, for example, to assist me, maybe to demonstrate the next drill, and maybe I can talk to him at the end of the session and ask him, maybe you have a good idea what to do next week, maybe you can demonstrate. When those kids feel they are important and they feel that we care what they think and we trust them, so it gives them the confidence, and they give them, they feel like, okay, the therapist trusts me and they need my help. And most of the time it helps because kids, they want to feel needed, they want to feel like they're important, they feel like they want to feel that they go trust them, they go up to trust them, and when they give them this opportunity, so most of the time it helps.
That's a very interesting answer, and it's a very important one because one of the worst things that we could feel as a human in of any age is powerlessness, is not having any individual ability to control our environment or to control our life or our experience. And that's a really interesting approach that you take. And I think a very effective one, probably, in that, hey, a child is really acting out, which means maybe they really feel powerless. And instead of scolding them or ignoring them or kind of giving a negative reaction, you feed them some sovereignty, you give them some power to have a say and to have a voice and to feel in control. And this helps them open up and feel more receptive to interacting. That's a really, really important lesson, I think, for anyone, because I think a lot of people, even into adulthood, feel like they don't have control. And that's why we see people lashing out at each other, isn't it? That's why we see people kind of grabbing at control over other people, whether it's in a moment of, hey, that's my parking spot, I'm going to curse you out. So, no, you can't get it, I get it. Or, just yelling at each other to try and put other people down. It's all really just a grasp to feel like they're in control of something, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's interesting.
and yeah, it's a good example. Like, and then when we as parents do it, so so that their kids mock our behavior, and they will do it after that in school or what, or outside, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, because that's kind of the opposite reaction that most people take to dealing with children, isn't it? Because it's very easy to take away more power from children. what are the standard, punishments or ways of dealing with children that have unsatisfactory behavior? You, take away their cell phone, you take away their video games, you take away their playtime, you take away their ice cream, you take away their, you ground them, you don't let them go out, you put them in detention or suspension or whatever. And all of these things, they just make a child feel more helpless and feel more out of
Frustrated, yeah.
and this is why you kind of see that cycle of children being labeled bad kids because they act one way and then get treated like that. And that kind of creates more of the problem going forward, doesn't it?
And sometimes they do it on purpose because they say, okay, this is the way I get the attention of my parents, of the teachers, so it doesn't matter. So sometimes, we see, okay, at least I get the attention.
Wow. And so, how long have you been doing these kinds of programs? Have you had children that have taken part in these programs? Has there been enough time for them to grow up into adults themselves, or is it rather new?
Not yet, because I started it 6 years ago, and usually we work in elementary schools. Um, But we can see, after 15 sessions, the progress, and see we teach kids, how to behave when they get frustrated. So how to take a deep breath and to imagine where we would like to be. And some ways like drills like that, we teach them. And after that, that we hear that the students share with us that, yeah, the other day I had this I faced with this challenge, and I took a deep breath, and it assisted me. So we can see it even, after 15 sessions. We don't have to wait till they come go on.
Wow. How does that feel? How does that feel to know that you're having this kind of impact on so many students' lives?
It means a lot to me, and this is why I decided to do it, because I see that how can I assist kids, and how can I approach them better, and how can I have good connection with them, and I see, that I can guide them, and give them some tools that I received from sports. It means a lot. It means a lot, and it really fulfill me.
Do you have children of your own?
Yeah, so I have one daughter. She's 5 years old.
And so, on the parenting side of things, how do you implement some of these principles in raising your own daughter? If you'd like to talk about it, of course, we don't have to.
Yeah, I can do it. So I try to teach her and provide us with those tools, but sometimes it's difficult because, I have the head of the parent and not have the head of the therapist. So it's a different role. I have this role to be a parent. So sometimes you need this other person that can provide her with those tools, because it's a specific role to be a therapist, and they have a specific connection, and it's sometimes challenging to guide your daughter or this way, because you have a different relationship.
It is funny how that works, right? Humans are very stubborn sometimes, and we have to hear things from outside for them to kind of get in because when there's the familial relation, there's kind of these sometimes you're just so wrapped up in things or you have these kind of emotions towards the experience rather than having to hear it from a neutral third party. But that's it's very interesting that even as someone that's specifically in this field of creating healthy children, you still find it challenging as a parent yourself. Parenting is strange, isn't it?
It is, but I do give her compliments all the time. And before she goes to sleep, I tell her, give her a lot of compliments. And I can share this funny story that I tell her all the time before she goes to sleep, that she is a superhero. She's strong and fast, and she's a superhero. And she told me the other day she went to the kindergarten, and she told her friend that she's a superhero. And her friend said, "No, you're not superhero. You're a regular girl." And she told me that. I said, "No, you are a superhero. You're fast. You're smart. You're funny. Everyone loves you. You are a superhero. If she thinks she's not a superhero, fine. But you are a superhero."
That's awesome. Hey, don't let the world get it down, right? That's really cool. Now I know you only have a daughter, but you work with boys and girls in your program. Do you find that there's a difference in how the young boys and the young girls kind of experience the social difficulties or how they kind of work through them?
No, no, because we don't do competitive drills and we don't do drills that, we saw the earlier drill that we did. It's not that boys have advantage on girls when they do something like that. They are both equal. So I try to do drills that boys and the girls are capable to do. Um, so no, it's the same thing. There have some girls that are really competitive, and you have boys that are really competitive. There's girls that have lack of communication skills. It depends. It depends on the person.
Oh, certainly. And the, competition and the physicality side aside, what about, like the kind of behind the scenes, the emotional side of things and the social side of things? Because a lot of people, especially in America, talk about how, okay, girls mature faster and boys aren't as, emotionally smart or they're more rambunctious or what have you. Do you notice any kind of difference in the specific, social issues that they have, or they're all kind of the same?
Yeah, I can share with you a great story that we deal now with. So we have this class that the girls don't get along with each other. This girl doesn't want to play with this girl, and they open the group on online. That they chat with each other, and they don't join all the girls, and they have all these politic things. And when they come to class, so because we have girls and boys, so the girls get along. But when they have a drill that they have to do only the girls, so then it's challenging for them because they don't get along with each other when the girls have to get along. But when they have girls versus boys, so it's easier for them, because they're one group, so it's easier for them. But when you focus only and on the girls and you give them a drill, only the girls to do it, it's challenging to them. And now we try to teach them how to get along with each other, how to communicate with each other. And so this is a challenge that we deal now with this group.
Interesting. But is that an isolated thing, or is that kind of a trend that you've noticed over time that happens?
No, this is something that I noticed only in this specific school.
Interesting, interesting. And so, hmm, what do you think is next for your program? How would you like to kind of expand it, or what do you think would be the next steps of kind of growing or implementing new programs?
My goal was to come and work with as many schools as we can in the United States. And later on, not in the near future, I would like to open a school, that now I guide the therapist and we do it one-on-one, we do it online, we go all through the drills. But in the future, I would like to open a school that therapists can come and I can guide them and teach them my system.
And so you said United States. Right now, your program is it both in Israel and in the United States? Is that correct?
So we run now a pilot in one school, and the goal is to come and work with as many schools as we can. Yeah.
That's super cool. And so, do you yourself travel between Israel and the United States to kind of put these programs on, or do you kind of work with them all remotely?
So now I work remotely because we run only one pilot in the United States. But after once we work with more schools, so definitely I'll come.
That's awesome. And so, what do you think? What do you think is the biggest takeaway of them all that the children come away from your program with? Like, I'm surely they're learning a lot of different things, but what do you think is the biggest impact, if you had to describe one that these children are coming away with? What do you think's missing?
The most important thing is to give them the confidence, to give them those little compliments, as you said earlier, to see those small things, to make them sure that I notice those small things that usually the teachers don't have the time and can't notice. Uh, to give them the opportunity to know that they can trust me or the other therapist that comes to the school, and after the session ends, every time to find a different student and have this little chat with them to how did you feel, how was your day, and it means a lot of that to them, because usually again the parents don't have the time, the opportunity to do it, because they work in a big class. But when you work in a small class of 10 students, so you have the opportunity to approach the most of the students after the class ends, and to talk to them. And it means a lot of them that you know that you stopped your life, and you stopped everything to talk to them, and to ask them the questions. And a lot of time they share some private things that they don't have this opportunity to do it with regular teachers.
And so, something that you've mentioned multiple times now as a really important thing to do is giving children compliments and giving them many compliments and giving them really big compliments.
Yeah. And
But
to explain why, when you give someone a compliment, to explain that, not just to say good job because you helped the other kid, because you saw that this kid is struggling, you assisted him, because you said that he got hurt, that you went to bring him this bottle of water, to explain why it's really important, because a lot of parents and teachers say good job, but the students, not all, the kids, not all the time understand why, what is the reason behind this good job. So this is really critical.
I think that's essential as well, because that leads into my question. In that, in today's day and age, there's a lot of pushback on doing things like that, in giving lots of compliments and rewarding and such for unfounded behaviors. I think a lot of people have this sentiment that children shouldn't be just, given participation trophies and said, oh, good job, good job, good job. And a lot of people are like, oh, all these children get told they're special, but they're not. And then that creates problems later on. And so there's kind of this like, I think there was a generation where they did do compliments, compliments, compliments. Ooh, everybody's good, everybody's a winner, but there wasn't the real reason behind it, like you were saying, and that created a lot of detriment in those children as well. But you nailed it in that, hey, give compliments when they deserve it, but
Exactly,
not
exactly,
otherwise.
exactly.
Do you have any comments on the people that kind of have pushed back the other way and kind of get upset at children being made to feel like they're all special?
I think that, as you said earlier, we need to provide them this feeling that they are special, but explain why, not just to say, okay, to explain how you're funny, you're a good athlete, you help at home a lot, but to explain why, because I believe that every kid has his or her special ability, and we, as parents or therapists or teachers, we need to focus on just to find it. Uh, because everyone has some good skills and advantage, and we need to find it. And if your kid plays basketball well, or cooks well, so provide with this opportunity to do this. Because, for example, if your kid cooks well, so tell them, okay, let's you can make the dinner today, and to take a picture, to send it to all the family, and to give this compliment. And it means a lot. It means a lot. It changes the life of kids.
Now, what about for those parents or those caregivers for children who genuinely don't know what they could compliment a child on. Because it's a great idealist thing to say. Ah, everybody's good at something. Oh, this kid has basketball. This kid's a writer. This kid makes art. But what if a child doesn't give you anything to work with, to build them up with? What do we do then?
So the real world is something like if he's a good brother, a good sister, they assist at home a lot, really good in Lego, good in puzzle, it doesn't matter. So we need just to find this thing.
That's a good answer because perhaps they just haven't been presented yet with the opportunity that they will thrive in. And that's where it's the role of a parent or, perhaps an education system, whatever, to continue to introduce different things to a child until they find what resonates with them, until they find what their natural abilities kind of give them an inclination towards. And I think that's where a lot of children aren't being done justice because there's so many different things that people could be good at, right? And
Yeah,
unless they're presented with it, they'll never know. And a lot of children, I think, feel like they aren't good at anything because they just haven't been given the proper tools. Maybe they'd be a professional race car driver if their parent got them a little go-kart. It's there's so many different things that a child can explore, but they don't have the agency to acquire that themselves or they don't even know how to ask for what they need. And that's why it really comes into a parent's responsibility to
to
observe.
expose them, to. I want to share a beautiful story of my friend. He was a professional swimmer, and when he was in high school, he used to swim butterfly all the time, butterfly. And in one competition, the other kid that swam backstroke, he didn't come to the competition. So his coach told him, maybe you can switch and compete in backstroke. And he said, okay, it was his first time that he tried it. And he nailed it and he won the competition. And eventually he became an Olympics swimmer. He was in the Olympic Games. He made it to the sixth place, if I'm not mistaken. But it's amazing that he had this opportunity that it was just luck, he had this opportunity and he changed his whole life because he made it to the Olympic Games. And even let's say that this other kid wasn't sick and he would come to this competition. So I don't know if we met, because he was a better swimmer in backstroke, but no one gave me this opportunity. No one exposed him to this style.
Wow. That's very interesting. And that's an extreme example, but it's something that's very real. And it's not just for children, right? There's a lot of adults who haven't found something that they're really good at and that they really enjoy. And I think a lot of adults haven't really explored a life path that truly fulfills them and that they can excel at. They kind of find a job or find a career or whatever that they might not care about, but just pays the bills. And that's just what they do for the rest of their lives. It's uh
Yes, yes.
it's really sad. And that does bring back the conversation of, society has set up things in a certain way, and it's hard to kind of have the time or have the finances to explore different hobbies. But, I think everyone needs to have something, whether it's a sport, whether it's gardening, whether it's, driving cars, making music. We as a species, I think, are meant to experience play because all of these things that we're talking about, they're a form of play. They're a form that inspires creativity. It allows us to kind of get into a flow like meditative state and kind of allow our souls to feel alive. And I think children and adults alike need to find that thing. And that thing might change over the years. But I think too many people live a life without something that really inspires them and gets them going. And they feel lost. They feel lost
Mhm.
without that.
Yeah.
So what's that thing for you?
And basketball. I like to play basketball. I was a coach basketball player. And I try to play basketball just for fun, to go outside and shoot the ball and just to take a break and to make some shots. Yeah, it's a lot of fun and
That's awesome. Is there any other topics that you'd like to touch on in regards to your field of work or in regards to your program and your business that I haven't asked about yet?
yes, I want to talk about one more thing that I think that another issue that kids challenge that kids face with today. They don't have the patience to wait for things, because when we were kids, for example, if we liked song, we had to pray and maybe the song would be played on the radio. Now we just go on YouTube and you listen to it. And the same thing with Netflix. You have so many variety of movies that you can change and they want it right here, right now. I talked yesterday to SEL coordinator from a school in Massachusetts, and she said that all the kids today have Stanley Cup. You heard of that? This Stanley Cup. It's a big thing now.
Like the metal cups, you're saying?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes, yeah. So, for example, when I was a child, so, I didn't have a bottle of water. It wasn't accessory. I didn't have to have it. I would go to the water fountain and drink from the water fountain. I didn't have a bottle. And now you have to have it. And it's pretty expensive and they want it now. And think about this mom that has 4 kids and has to buy now 4 Stanley Cups. It's not easy. So I think that we have this that we as parents have to assist their kids. So if you want the Stanley Cup, maybe we can buy it and during the next holiday, maybe on your birthday, maybe we can split it half you and half the parent, but to give them the opportunity to work for it and to wait for it and to appreciate it. But when some things come really easily, so we expect to get everything right here, right now. And when it doesn't happen, the kids get frustrated.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's a hard one to combat in the modern era because everything's just getting faster. Bam, on your phone is everything that you could think of. Everything immediately to the point where we don't really have to think about anything. We don't have to try to think about how to solve a problem. We could just Google how to solve the problem. We don't have
Yeah,
to, wait and look forward to seeing our loved one at the end of the day and hear about their day and talk to them. We could just talk to them on all the time, text them, call them, this, that, the other. And this instant gratification is really, like you said, a big issue for children and adults alike because we're not wired to have that. We as humans are not designed with this technology in mind. So we have different things that go on in our brain chemically that we like to work and then receive reward, whatever that is. But now we can receive a lot of rewarding experiences without having to work for them or wait for them. And we are programmed to be efficient. If we discover an efficient and fast pathway for something, that kind of just becomes the default and we kind of get addicted to that. And so, yeah, whether it is I want a Stanley Cup right now, or, I want to know this piece of information right now, or whatever it is, people have been allowed to get away with things without working for it. And that is causing certainly a lot of issues.
yes, yes, yes.
Certainly a lot of issues. So what do you think is there a solution to that? How can we navigate this modern world that's only getting more and more convenient and still stay healthy or encourage our children to be healthy?
So as I said earlier, I think that we need to teach them how to be patient and how to work for the things that they want, and how they to teach them how to wait for those things. So if they want Stanley Cup, so no, maybe we can wait for the next holiday. Maybe we can next wait to your birthday if it comes soon. Maybe we can split it so the mom pays half and the kid pays half. So I want them to, okay, so they get the Stanley Cup, okay, they decided, but I want them to deliver the message that they don't get it easily, that I want them maybe to wait a bit for this, to appreciate it. Because after that, when they come to school and they don't succeed when they take the test, so, so to teach them that, okay, so you have to work harder next time. So, because it doesn't come, nothing comes easily.
Yeah, but I think most parents are doing the opposite. Most parents are wanting an easy way of dealing with their children because dealing with a child who is a living, breathing, individual with needs and wants and questions and feelings, that's work also. But now you have a generation of parents who themselves want the easy way out, so they just stick their children in front of an iPad, stick their children in front of a computer, in front of a TV. And it just causes that chain reaction problem. Because children don't want to be like that, but parents don't want to deal with their children. So they make them
Yes.
like that by extension. And these
And I
children
feel
don't,
that the parents that are frustrated, because they have to be at work a lot of times, so maybe they feel like, at least I can give my kid this Stanley Cup that he wants. So maybe, this is the way I can make him happy. But no, we don't make him happy this way because he learns that he gets whatever he wants as soon as he wants it, and he doesn't have to work for it, and it leads to the point that they don't appreciate it.
yeah, nothing is free and nothing comes easy. There's always a price, and you can change the form of that price and you can delay paying that price, but doing so also usually increases the price. If you don't want to learn how to work for things now, and you don't want to learn how to wait for things now, you're going to pay a greater price of never being able to wait for or work for things in the future. But there's
Yeah.
always that price to be paid. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, if someone would like to get in contact with you, Tomer, to check out your business or to talk more with you and consult with you about if your program can be implemented in their program, where would you direct them to learn about yourself and your services?
So I have my website, Jumping Forward, and you can find me on Instagram, and I'll send you the link to the Instagram account and my website. And we have some cool and important things there.
Awesome. So it's Instagram. On Instagram, you were jump underscore forward. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. And what was your website? It was just jumpingforward.org.
Jumping forward, that yes, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And to close out here, would you like to share any message to leave off with? Is there anything specific that you'd really like for our listeners to take home and to take with them?
As we discussed earlier, that I believe that in each kid there is something special, and we as parents, as therapists, we need to find it and to focus on it, and to bring this and to give this kid the opportunity to do it as many as to give him this opportunity to do it as much as we can.
Yeah, that's a really great message to leave off with because a lot of people are out here blaming children for what children are experiencing, but it's the adults that need to take responsibility and really be there for children. because children aren't just
Yeah.
inconveniences. They are beautiful, living beings with wants and needs and feelings and experiences that are shaped by adults. And so we need to do better for them. And that's a wonderful message. And it's wonderful work that you're doing. I really, really look forward to seeing your business grow and be implemented in more programs and more schools, because there is a big lack of it in the public education system or otherwise. So I look forward to seeing what you make of Jumping Forward. Tomer, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I had a good time, and talk to you later.
Talk to you soon, brother. A big thank you goes to Tomer for coming on the show. Episode 20 of the Health King's Court concludes just like that. You know, the work that Tomer is doing is very important. It's so insane, to say the least, how we expect children in today's world to sit for 8 to 10 hours a day going to school and then doing homework and expect them to just do that like little robots. It's not how children work, it's not how humans work, and it's fundamentally against the way that we learn and develop. You know, I am certainly myself a opponent of public education systems, but they're here to stay. So implementing programs such as Tomer's in education systems, public or private, can certainly have a positive effect, and I can certainly see his program having success in all the different areas he's implementing it. As always, check out the rest of my episodes for some other wonderful conversations with very interesting people about all sorts of topics you may not have ever thought about. Go to zachthehealthking.com. That'll allow you to see the podcast on all the different platforms. That'll allow you to connect with me on socials and see what other things I'm up to. Hope you enjoyed listening to the show. Stay tuned for more.